Get ready. It's going to be a very, very intense journey.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to Frame Skip. You've got the dynamic duo this week. I am one of your hosts, Seth Slakehouse, and with me is George of the Jungle Loftus.
Watch out for that tree, indeed.
So, George of the Jungle, he was the monkey, right? No, he was the Tarzan ripoff, correct?
Yeah, it was a comedy. Yeah,
that's what I thought. So I bring that up because I thought for a second, because there's Curious George and then George of the Jungle.
Yeah, Curious George is the monkey. Yeah,
and Curious George doesn't have a tail. Are you aware of this?
Never paid attention to it, to be completely honest.
It's a Mandela effect. And people are like, why wouldn't Curious George have a tail? But he doesn't. Curious George does not have a tail. The Mandela effect really screws me up.
Are we sure he doesn't have a tail, or is he just like really mischievous and always behind something and we just can't see the tail?
Curious George in this timeline no longer has a tail.
Oh, okay.
Dude, there's so many things about the Mandela effect that really mess me up. Like, the first one was the Bernstein Bears, right? You've surely heard of this. Yes. Berenstain. My mom read those books to me every night as a kid. Like, my mom was very illiterate. I remember seeing it. No way. Didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to hear this collective, well, we all remembered it the exact wrong way. It's ridiculous. And then there's the one that really gets me is the Disney movie opening where Tinkerbell flies to the top of the castle, hits the top, and the sparkles come cascade down. Never happened. And I'm like,
wait, what?
That never happened, George.
I don't believe you.
George, that never happened. I'm telling you.
Surely that's happened.
No, it doesn't. That's
no, I know exactly what you're talking about. Like, she's got like the weird like wrist, like she did springs it back and then bops it with like a little wrist flick. No, that must have happened.
George.
The sparks. No, Seth, I know the sparks.
So do I, but it doesn't exist. Someone went back into the timeline and changed something, and that no longer exists.
What if someone changed that, got rid of that, and like that's why we had 9/11? Like, what if 9/11 like never actually happened, but they were like, you know what? Like this opening for Disney is just too sexual. We can't have her flaunting off her sparks. People might read that as a metaphor. Let's just remove that, and then all of a sudden, domino, bigger domino, biggest domino, 9/11. Like,
yes,
yeah.
Or maybe they changed something that led to the Hitler coming into power, because that doesn't really make any sense from a historical perspective either. It's a weird. The Mandela effect messes with me, and
okay, can you imagine? Like, you're a comic book fan. Sorry, I'm just stick with me on this. Like, can you imagine Bishop from the X-Men, but just doing the most inconsequential stuff? Like just like moving. It's just like, oh yeah, there's a children's book. Oh yeah, the Berenstain Bear. No, let's change it to the Berenstain Bear. Like it's like. Is it an experiment where it is like, let's just do the most innocuous, banal changes we can to the timeline just to see how they react?
It's getting worse. Like, the Tinkerbell one was the most egregious one I've ever seen, because like I can vividly remember and picture that in my head. And then like this blew up, like it was like 2 years ago this came, and everyone's like, no, we can't find it anywhere. It never happened. And it's like, what? Excuse me? And then, sure enough, it's gone. Never happened. And then your old Disney videos are going to have it. And it's not on YouTube. Nowhere.
I love you, Seth. I know you'd never lie to me, but I also don't believe you. I cannot reconcile that never happened. That just does not make sense to me.
I know it doesn't make sense. Believe me. It made me want to freak out.
Is that the one that's hit you the hardest?
Yeah, that's the one that's hit me the hardest out of all of them. The other one is like the Monopoly Man not having a monocle, no hyphen in Kit Kat.
Wait, no, hold on. The Monopoly Man, I think I can explain.
Yeah, people.
The Monopoly Man didn't have one, but then in Ace Ventura 2, when he knocks out that guy at like the South African embassy or the Kenyan embassy, wherever he is, he like punches him out, and because he refers to him, he's like, "You must be the Monopoly guy," and he had a monocle. So I feel like that's why people have retroactively, collectively recalled the Monopoly man having a monocle.
See, I've never seen Ace Ventura.
Oh man, the second one's an underrated sequel.
There's just the other one is that blows my mind is the emoji for the robber emoji never existed.
I can't picture that, so you're on your own there.
Bernstein Bears, Sex and the City. It's not Sex in the City. Febreze having.
No, it was always Sex and the City.
See, I always thought it was. I never watched it. Some of these I will chalk up to like you've heard it wrong or you misremembered it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the Disney Tinkerbell one, I won't.
The Disney thing, I 1,000% remember sparks coming from like the top of like whatever their Paramount Mountain was, right? Like that was Cinderella's castle, whatever, right?
Yeah. The other one that messes me up is the Fruit of the Loom logo not having a cornucopia behind it. Yeah, so Mandela effect.
That I can't remember. Like it feels right, but also am I just picturing every Greek painting of like every Greek vase of fruit?
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's weird because they say it's like, oh, people misremembering it, but did we all misremember it the same exact way? Did we all like that Tinkerbell intro is so specific. You know, like you can picture her flying around and then tapping the castle and the sparks flying down the Disney World. Yeah, it's like there's no way we all misremembered that.
Yeah, but also like if any company on the planet would be able to scour and delete any footage of something, like it would be Disney. Like they're so litigious, you know.
Yeah, but it wouldn't
be
disappear.
record. Yeah,
it wouldn't disappear from your VHS tapes or your DVDs. But
I mean, I haven't looked. I don't think I actually own any Disney DVDs or.
Yeah,
I mean,
this
that,
was
like for me, that had to be like a specific era, right? Like a 6 VHS run or something where they were just trying that out, you know.
But it feels like you've seen it 1,000 times, right?
I don't know if I've seen it 1,000 times, but I like remember it. Are we sure it wasn't like on the Disney Channel presentation of movies?
I mean, I don't know exactly where I've seen it.
Okay, yeah. I like how we haven't mentioned why it's called the Mandela effect. Like we haven't mentioned Nelson Mandela.
Nelson Mandela dying in the 80s. Yeah.
See that I don't get. Okay, see, I was okay. This is a great example of why this is kind of screwy because I wasn't alive in the 80s. I was born in 90. Mm-hmm. But so I remember him actually dying, and then people being like, "Oh, I thought he died in the 80s." It's like, no, I think he was just freed from jail in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And then once it stopped being a culturally significant problem for you, you just assumed he died.
I never knew anything about Nelson Mandela until the Mandela effect. I didn't even know he existed. And I was like, oh, what's this? Why is it called the Mandela effect? The other one I remember is Muhammad Ali dying, but he didn't die until way later. I thought he died like earlier, and a lot of people think that too. I don't know. It's weird because there's like people. There's a lot of doubters of it now, but people say there's a lot of evidence that supports like we might just be merging with alternate universes. Like there's a lot of quantum physics that would support that happening. So.
Oh yeah, well, because was it like the particle collider, right? CERN. Sorry, I was trying to remember what it's called. Because like that was going active like in 2012, right? Like wasn't that when like
when all these things started popping up? Yeah.
Yeah, so it was like then, and like that was when like the Mayans predicted like the end of the world, and it's like, oh well, actually, it wasn't like the end of the physical world; it was just the end of like incongruent timelines, you know. And that's just
has anyone considered that?
Maybe that's why people really thought JFK Jr. was going to come back and become the actual president instead of Joe Biden and Donald Trump last year. Because I can't explain where the hell that idea came from anywhere else. Do you have anything? I'm like actually actively researching this, and I'm just like, wait, why did they think that? And I can't find anything.
I don't know. The Kennedys were like a pretty evil family in hindsight. That I don't know. That's a different topic for another time. But yeah, dude, it's weird. But like, maybe we should talk about some video games, huh? I don't know. This is
admit
just
it.
as good.
Actually, no, we can.
This is a good conversation anyway.
We
Yeah, I
do
don't
need a spin-off podcast, I think, with just you and I, where we just go wildly off topic. Maybe that's what it's
know.
called. Maybe it's just called Wildly Off Topic.
That's a great name. That is a great name.
And we just see like how far away, like, you know, like Wikipedia, like burrowing or whatever, like the rabbit hole. Just trying to see like how far, like let's find two connected subjects and try to connect them.
Sometimes I get really bored and I'll try to get to some spot on Wikipedia from another random spot.
Oh no, yep. No, friends and I have done that too. We try to do, it's like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon or whatever. We see who can do it in the fewest amount of steps.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. It's a good time.
That would be a fun podcast. I would listen to that.
All right. Well, how you been this week, George? I haven't talked to you in 2 weeks. I missed you. How you been?
I've been all right. I started a new diet where there's like no carbs, no starch, no sugar, no alcohol, no processed foods of any kind. I hate everything about being awake at all times because I realized like all my tea has like stevia leaf in it, which is like a sugar basically. So I can't have any of my teas. So I'm like, oh yeah, I'm just tired all the time because I have no like I pretty much cut out caffeine, but I get a little bit from like some of the teas I would drink. And man, I'm just a walking shell. Like I feel really low energy right now, and I hate it.
Once you get through that initial stage, though, you'll feel a lot better. You know, once your body adapts to not having tons of chemicals running through it.
Yeah, I've done this diet before, and I've dropped like 25 pounds every time I do it. So like I know this diet's good. I know it's worked before. I'm getting ready for my beach bod. Really excited. But gosh darn it, man. I really miss bread. Bread's cool.
Bread
Underrated.
is, dude, when you get a like well cooked piece of like Italian bread, you know, like at the Italian restaurants, it's got the butter on it and whatnot, and it's the crispy outside, and you just bite into it. It's like, oh, I know you're paying.
I hate to sound super boring, but like every Wednesday would be like my like home sandwich day, where I would just get like butter, sometimes mayonnaise. I'd be crazy, and I put mayonnaise on the outside of bread, and I make a grilled cheese. Make a grilled cheese with like mayo instead of butter. I promise it's good. It's mostly egg anyway and mayo. So do that, and then do like a little Havarti, and then do some like Mediterranean turkey, and throw that on like some potato bread. And oh god, I would murder for one of those right now.
Mayonnaise might be the most underrated ingredient. It's essential. It has to happen. Whenever I make a turkey sandwich,
advertising campaign I've always worked on for so much dumb stuff. I was like, it's not a condiment, it's an ingredient. You know, like it was always like harkening back to that idea because like it's so fundamental to so many different things. I think that is fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, you can't have the best luxuries in life without mayo. It's a written rule. What do you been playing?
Really quick, besides that, I've been on a tear. Just not even reading comic books, but buying comic books. I bought so many comic books recently.
Digitally or physically?
Physical. I don't know what it is, but I was just like, man, I kind of miss Superman. So I've just been buying like these random lots on eBay of just like old Action Comics for like, $1 each, 50 cents each. And just getting like boxes of like 20 of them delivered. It's been awesome filling that out. I also ordered this huge lot of, do you remember that Spider-Girl comic from like the 90s?
Yes.
I ordered that, and I'm so excited for that to get here. I got like 84 issues of like the 120, I think, that was in there. So big chunk of that collection. Excited to finish it off.
Nice, dude. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I had a Superman run in the mid 20-aughts. That's what they're officially called, right? 20-aughts.
Yeah.
Or the 20 teens.
I think it's just the aughts, but yeah.
When the New 52 started up, not because I like Superman, but because I heard the Wonder Woman New 52 comic was good, which it was. I really enjoyed that. And then they had the congruent series Superman and Wonder Woman where they actually dated, and I thought that was a really good comic. Yeah, and I read that all the way through, and I picked up Superman alongside it for a little bit, but I've never been a Superman guy other than that short amount of time. Because I always thought Superman was boring.
The book that really got me into Superman, I agree. I always thought he was kind of boring too. I started like buying Action Comics just because I'm like, I want to understand what Superman was, but like I don't know how long before I enjoyed it. But then one summer, DC had released a Return of Superman trade paperback that was like 4 inches thick. Like it was just like old phone books, and it was $20 for like the entire death and return of Superman arc, and it was absolutely incredible. I love that story so much, and that was what made me a big Superman fan.
My biggest problem with DC currently is the fact that it feels like every Justice League story is the same. Now, I haven't read DC Justice League in years at this point, but it always feels like it's all right. Let's delay the bad guy until Superman gets here, and that's why I was like so disappointed with the Justice League movie, because I was like, oh, cool, like they're fighting. Who was it? Darkseid? No, it wasn't Darkseid. It was
Steppenwolf.
Steppenwolf. That's Steppenwolf. Like I was like, oh, cool, they're fighting, Steppenwolf. But in the back of my head, the whole time I was like, Superman's gonna show up eventually, and that's exactly what happened. It's like, okay, well, that's kind of what always happens. I feel like.
No, I think that's a pretty fair complaint. I do think that the recent Justice League comic has generally done a better job of that. Like it was started off, it had like 50 issues during Rebirth, and then that series ended, and then there was a 4-issue like Let's Really Mix Things Up by Scott Snyder. I cannot remember the name of that miniseries. I'll get back to you. And then he started like a brand new Justice League series, and then it was really good for like 30 something issues, and he bounced. And then I think it was Brian Michael Bendis who just bounced for Joshua Williamson, who's like now sort of like the de facto like architect, I think, like writer architect at DC right now.
Dollars to donuts, George. Avengers versus Justice League, which is better?
The Justice League are better heroes, but I don't care about them nearly as much as I care about the Avengers. Justice League wins in a fight every time.
All right. That's the correct answer.
Yeah, but I just don't care about the Justice League as a problem. I really like a lot of Justice League runs. Like I think the Grant Morrison, Howard Porter run's really good. I really liked Brad Meltzer and Ed Benes when that started. I really liked Dwayne McDuffie and Joe Bennett on the series. Like there's a bunch of really good stories pretty recently too. But man, there's just I think I'm more of a Marvel guy. Like I think the more I think about it, like doing this podcast, I could just as easily do this for DC. But I think the fact that it's like so much less relatable makes it, I don't want to say less interesting, but like I don't want to make a podcast about it nearly as much as I do Marvel, because I think Marvel is like, oh hey, let's talk about that time Nick Fury committed a war crime. Like there's just no, like there's no war crimes that like, someone good in DC would commit. So like I don't think that's like as interesting material. That said, I love DC books. I've probably read more DC than Marvel in my entire life, but
I haven't read any DC comics, and honestly, I've read very few comics since this, since they scrapped the Batman Catwoman storyline. And I was like, from Tom King, and I was like, I can't do this anymore, man. I was so invested in that for years. I think they got him to what, it was issue 80, I think, and they were going to do like the spinoff series, which they're doing currently, Batman Catwoman, to do that storyline. But I was like, I can't do this anymore, because it was the first time in a long time that DC actually convinced me that Batman was going to get some character development and like move forward a little bit from being like the mid 30s, I have to be miserable type of guy. And they were just like, nah, we're not doing that anymore. We're gonna reset that. And I was like, oh, God, like I just can't do it. I can't handle that. It just sucked. Because I think Tom King was probably fair. He probably felt stabbed in the back too. It's just like the status quo never changes, man. It's like, man, you build up this book for 80 issues or whatever. I guess it probably was more like 50 before they made the decision to call it off. And it's like, what was the point of any of this? It just seems like, I don't know.
No, I think that's a pretty valid complaint. It's just with Batman, like the frustrating thing, except for Tom King's run, which I agree, like actually like did a lot to sort of like change things, or at least change the way you see them. Like every other thing is just like, it's like Bruce Wayne rediscovering why he needs Batman, or like why someone needs Batman. It's like, okay, like that's really cool, but it's also like we've heard this song before, Yeah.
And there was like really great written books in that series that were unlike any other Batman book I've ever seen. And you see, and I was getting so frustrated because I'd see people in the comments complain like, oh, this isn't a Batman book, this is terrible. Um, um, and I'm like, what do you want? You want your 2000th book of Batman hunting down and beating up the Joker? Like they've told this story 1,000 times before. Why do you need like constant? Hey, this Batman just in the streets beating up a random new villain. But in the Tom King run, we got things like the double date, right? You remember the double date issue where they went to like
Was
the
that
carnival?
was that in Batman? I thought that was in the Superman book. I thought that was
That
Action
was
Comics.
that may have. I thought that was an annual for Batman. Either way, it was
Yeah,
the double date
book's so
issue.
much fun. Yeah.
Yeah, because like Lois dresses up as Catwoman and Superman dresses up as Batman, right?
Yeah.
And they kind of switch identities and like they just have a fun day at the carnival. That's all that's about. But you get so much characterization there, and you get like a relationship between Catwoman and Lois, and then you get the other book, which I really loved, which was a story from two perspectives, Batman and Superman's perspective of them talking to their respective girlfriends at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And they're both like, you need to call him. They were having the same struggle. You know, do you remember that book?
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, that's also amazing. But they end up like meeting in a basement, and it's like, man,
That one was
you
really
don't get
good.
those books.
That one was really good. That one where like Wonder Woman asked Bruce to like help her like fight at the gates of hell, right? And it's
Oh yeah,
they were away for like 800 years, but they weren't like aging, you know. And it was
yes.
like weeks or whatever for Selena. That book was amazing. I thought the actual like trying to save Poison Ivy, that book was incredible. And then like I just remember like Catwoman and Joker fighting to the death, like in the church.
Yeah,
That one
yes.
was incredible, right? Because like Joker was pissed. He's like, "You're taking him from me." Like,
Yes.
and she's like, "You need to let him go." Like that book was so good. Yeah, no, I'm with you.
Tom
It's
King's
funny
run was
because I feel
amazing.
like everything you just said about like complaining about Batman is, I feel like that's more or less what you want with Spider-Man, though, right? Like, don't you want more of a classic interpretation of Spider-Man?
No, I want the okay. The worst thing that ever happened to Peter Parker was Brand New Day. That was the worst thing that ever happened because that ruins all the character development that Spider-Man had for 20 years prior, approximately. I don't have a date in mind, but approximately 20 years, right? Instead
No,
of being
Brand New Day was
instead
2007, and he married MJ in like 91. So yeah, like about 20 years. Yeah,
but it wasn't just like the marriage that they lost with him, right? They lost all the character development. Peter lost his years in college as a teacher. He lost, the maturity that he had. What happened was they reset him back to like 1970s, where he's now a broke mid-20s guy who isn't. I think his firing from the Avengers came later when in the Superior arc, but he essentially wasn't in the Avengers anymore, and he was working for the Bugle again or immediately right after Brand New Day. It's like, but we already did this, and I don't need Peter Parker to be relatable again. We have those stories, right? Like,
mm-hmm.
we already have that version of him, and he grew up, and you just took it away for no reason. For in my opinion, one of the worst characterizations of Peter Parker that ever happened in that story, because he trades Aunt May's life for essentially his future with Mary Jane and their unborn daughter. And it's like,
For the record, he doesn't do that. Mary Jane does that. Just so we're 100% clear. She takes it out of his hands and she does it. But it's clearly what he wants. So,
but she makes the deal with Mephisto. She's like, you make damn sure he's happy. What? It just doesn't make any sense, man. And then they've been toying with this story for like since then, where Mary Jane may remember their previous life, she may not. They've never addressed it. And instead, we get this weird whirlpool effect with Spider-Man, where like he's essentially stuck in the same place as Batman. He never gets any real character development. He's just stuck in because they don't want him to age. They don't want him to grow up.
See, that's why Miles Morales is so important, because once Miles Morales is able to settle in and be like the young Spider person, that's when Peter Parker finally gets to grow up.
But when's that going to happen? Never.
I don't know, because they want to keep Miles young forever. So
exactly, it's the same situation. Like these characters, their book comes out every other week in perpetuity. They never get anything that pushes their character forward. Like until that moment with Brand New Day, Peter Parker had never had like a serious reset. He had continuously developed his character all the way through until that point, and they reset it and stuck him in a damn time loop. And Nick Spencer did a lot to like change that, but then it seems like he just gave up halfway through. Because we got 70 issues of who is this villain? And it's like, all right, well.
I haven't finished the Spencer run. I got so bored after Craven's third to last hunt.
Yeah, let's do Craven again.
That arc really, I think it was just called Hunted. That arc took so much out of me because there was so many like 23 point KU, you know, or KH Craven's Hunt or whatever. I'm like, this is freaking exhausting. Also, I'm with you. Like, I think also what kind of killed the Batman book is they were like double shipping that, so you're getting 2 issues a month, and it's just it's just kind of exhausting, you know, when you're getting that much story. To be completely honest, But like, dude, the Spider-Man, I needed a break. I recently started to pick it back up again because trying to get, you know, the full picture for like this brand new volume that just started last Wednesday, and so I'm trying to do a better job of staying up to date. But Jesus, man, like I really need them to stop releasing number ones. It's like the single most infuriating thing to me in the world.
Are they still doing the classic numbering under the new numbering as well?
I can't remember. They generally are for most of their books, but I just think that like looks crappy. Like I think it looks like downright hideous. Like they did it better looking 15 years ago. You know, like when New Avengers, or not even New Avengers, but like when Avengers 500 came out, you know, it was like 500 and it was also issue 85 or whatever. Like they just made it like aesthetically look better 20 years ago than they are right now. It's like, that's,
and they never stick to their guns either, because you know when Spider-Man ASM 1000 comes out, they're gonna be like, this is the 1000th book of Spider-Man, and it's like, well, is it, or is it the 13th?
Yeah.
Like, you're doing this to sell us books, but the thing is they think that making a new number one is going to attract new readers. I don't think it will, because I don't think new people are picking up comic books generally, and I think they're annoying more people that actually read the book on a consistent basis than they are picking up new people. Because anyone who picks up a Spider-Man number one is going to immediately be like, well, I don't know what's going on, because they didn't actually reset anything. They just made a new number one.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I think it does help sometimes though, because like when I was 14, like going to the comic book store for the first time, like before, you know, like going every week, like the week I like decided like, okay, like I'm gonna get into comics, I'm gonna figure this out, you know, like I found all my old personal old back issues. I kind of know what's going on, let's see what's changed. Like New Avengers number one was right there, so I just grabbed it, you know, because it was a number one, and then I just kind of like worked it out from there, just did the detective work, the legwork on my own. So I do think it is helpful, but it's also like, I just wish there was like a cleaner way to do it. Like I just wish it made more. I wish what they were doing made more sense in the long run. It just seems so detrimental to collectors in particular, where it's like, okay, how many different, like, you know, I'm a big like trade paperback guy now. And so it's like, all right, how many different Amazing Spider-Man volume ones do I have downstairs from like all these different, like, okay, I got like the first Dan Slott volume number one, and then I've got the second Dan Slott volume number one, and then I've got the third Dan Slott volume number one, you know, and then it's like, oh, okay, Nick Spencer, okay, oh, Superior Spider-Man. Like it's just so GD confusing trying to keep everything straight.
Yeah, it's a mess. I think the comic book industry needs a giant something to switch up the formula, because if it was up to me, I would say, hey, we're doing this in seasons now, right? Just like TV shows or you know, movies.
Yeah.
Hey, you're putting out 14 issues in a 4-month period, and you have the rest.
I
of the
wouldn't
year
even
to
do that. I would keep it to 12 issues a year. I would have an annual come out every year, because that's what a freaking annual means. And I would just like probably like do it by like years, right? Like I would do like, okay, this is 2018, the Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man parentheses 2018 volume 1. You're like issue 1, whatever. And like try to build on it from there. Like I just think there's like a better way to organize the books and make it make more sense. And like they just don't think about collected editions. And I feel like most people are either reading this digitally or collected, but like they're only catering to people who buy in comic book stores, which, like, I'm sorry, there's just fewer comic book stores now than there was 10 years ago. Like there just are.
Yeah, I mean, even like I'm a big fan, right? I stopped going to my comic store. I read all my comics on my Kindle now. It's just easier, man. And I don't have these giant books that I'm never gonna pick up again, taking up space. And I have 3 long boxes at my dad's house that I haven't opened in 10 years. You know, it's like I don't even know what to do with all this stuff. But
I've been
I mean,
going
I
through
have-
my short boxes and organizing. It's been a lot of fun.
would you
But
say
nice.
you've been going through a short box summary?
I have been. Yeah, God, I'm so tired. I still need. That's why like you and I can't record our short box tonight because like I need to edit last week's episode still.
You need to sleep is what you need to do.
I just
And get some
God,
electrolytes in you.
God, this is a video game podcast, isn't it?
It is a video game podcast, which is why I was just about to say I've been playing Final Fantasy 15 this week. So me and Elijah had that debate 2 weeks ago about Square Enix and Final Fantasy 15, and it motivated me to be like, you know what? I never went back and played New Game Plus because I put a lot of time into Final Fantasy 15, and I even platinumed it. And I always told myself, after you get the platinum, go back and do New Game Plus and see what they added. So I hit up my buddy Pedro, who's a huge Final Fantasy 15 fan. I was like, hey, how would you like to make some content about Final Fantasy 15 where we just do a huge, in-depth, multi-hour breakdown of this game that is so controversial in the Final Fantasy community? And we just talk about it. Because when you play Final Fantasy 15, you can clearly see from the gate its flaws. But there is a lot of stuff that attracts you to the game that makes you keep playing. None of which I have any idea what they are. I'm just playing this and I'm like, yeah, my body and mind want to keep playing this, but there's so much about this game that infuriates me. So that's going to be an interesting discussion I'm going to have whenever we're done. I think me and Pedro are shooting for mid-May for that conversation to happen. New Game Plus and a couple of the DLCs are the only thing I have to play through. So, have you ever played Final Fantasy 15?
I have, yeah. I got a majority of the trophies, I think. Like I think I'm at like 60%. I can't really remember much about the story and like where I tapered off, but I really liked what I played. Like I had a lot of fun. I thought it was really pretty, but again, like I was never super into Final Fantasy. Like I played 5 before then, and that was pretty much it. And I've since gone back and played some of 8 and played a lot of 10 and played a little bit of 7. Like I've been trying to like explore more and just like find the one that really clicks with me. And I think so far, honestly, it's 5. Like 5 is my favorite one so far.
5's interesting, and it's interesting to hear that because most people wouldn't say 5. It's weird with Final Fantasy 15 because you can definitely tell it was 2 different games they combined into one, and the game was actually supposed to be about twice as big. If you break the game and like go free camera and you explore the different areas, you can actually they have in the game a whole other continent that they have mapped out, and there's like grass texture on it, but there's nothing else in there. It's the giant. You remember? I don't know if you remember this when you played the game, but you're on the train and they're like, oh, that's the Kingdom of Tenebrae, and then they just move on. You were originally supposed to be able to explore that the whole continent, instead of just taking a train through it. So that's kind of where, in my opinion, the game falls apart once it starts becoming super linear. But I like what they were going for in the first half, which is like just 4 dudes camping out, having fun. So I'm gonna play more of that. I'm about halfway through it right now, and I guess stay tuned for that giant review breakdown of Final Fantasy 15. I've also been playing Final Fantasy 7 Remake. I normally don't play 2 RPGs at the same time, but I've already played both of these games, so I can kind of tune out a little bit and just, play the game. Have you ever played a game where your current state of mind and the situation you're in has been bad enough that it completely ruins the game for you?
Yeah, sure have.
So Final Fantasy 7 Remake came out, and I started playing it, and then I went through a really nasty breakup, and I like forced myself to play through it because I was like, oh, this will make me feel better, right? But instead, what it did was just ruin the game for me the first time around.
Oh yeah, it's all you can think about is the game. All you can think about when you're playing the game is the breakup, and then like you try to go back to the game, and all you can do is associate that game with the breakup. So you just don't even want to play the game. Negative
feelings. So I'm going back through, and I'm trying to enjoy this time because I love Final Fantasy 7. I love that series. It's so historic to me. And the other thing that bothers me about Final Fantasy VII Remake that I just want to point out really quick is Square Enix did the number one thing that annoys me in gaming, which is they made a demo that is the beginning of the game that doesn't carry over your progress into the main game. Because what happened with Final Fantasy VII Remake was the demo is like the first 2 hours of the game, maybe even less than that, maybe like 45 minutes.
Mhm.
But it ruined that moment for me. You know what I'm talking about? Like booting up
Yeah.
Final Fantasy VII and seeing Cloud for the first time and doing the reactor. It ruined that because when I actually got the game then and played it, I was like, well, I've already done this, so I'm just going to kind of sprint through here.
A little less mind-blowing the second time, yeah.
Yeah. And then I just kind of casually been playing through those two games. I was scrolling through videos on the internet, and I saw someone talking about this book called Scythe. And I haven't read a book in years, like an actual book, probably since the Star Wars Ahsoka novel. And they were explaining it, and it sounds really cool. So I picked up that, and I've been reading that all last week. And that was a really like mind-blowingly good book that I've just been. I just finished it this morning, actually. So that's what I've been doing. Yeah, that's pretty much all. It's a pretty cool sci-fi take on things. Like, what if humanity had conquered everything, and like the state of people? It's pretty cool. But yeah, let's talk about the big news that just dropped today, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it.
Going back to Square Enix, they sold all their Western IP to Embracer Group. Embracer Group, of course, used to be known. I mean, it still is known, but it got an overarching organization now, THQ Nordic. Now it's Embracer Group. If I explained that correctly. It used to be all THQ Nordic. Now Embracer Group is like the overseeing body to all of them because they bought so many studios. And they seemingly have an unlimited amount of money. I think they sold it for $300 million.
That seems low.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, I think you're right. I'm saying, like, that seems really low.
Let me just look it up real quick. Square Enix Embracer Group. Yeah. They sold off Tomb Raider, Deus Ex, and okay. Thank you, Polygon. You're doing great. So Square Enix sold off Eidos, Crystal Dynamics, and Square Enix Montreal. I think that includes Tomb Raider, Deus Ex, and Thief. So Tomb Raider, one of the most historic video game franchises of all time. And I mean, Deus Ex has a cult following. Crystal Dynamics, a very talented developer. I had thought that Square Enix already split off from Eidos.
No.
Didn't they have like a very public split off with Hitman?
No, with Hitman, but that's IO.
Oh, okay, you're right. I was getting them confused. Eidos.
It's like, don't Mandela affect this too.
Yeah, no. What do you think about this?
I am glad it went to a third party as opposed to like being gobbled up by like a Sony or Microsoft, just because I think console exclusives, like if it's like a homegrown studio, that's like one thing. Like if you personally invested in it, that's great. But like, I don't know, treating these developers like free agents, I find that like really kind of annoying and I don't want to say disgusting, but man, sure don't like it. So I'm cool that I think they got lowballed. Like, I don't understand. Like, Sony bought Insomniac for $229 million, and it's like, come on, you're really telling me that you couldn't have gotten more than what you ended up getting for these places? Like that. I mean, that part doesn't make sense.
With the current state of sales in the gaming industry, Insomniac for $229 million is like an absolute robbery. Because
no, I agree, but that's what I'm saying is like these three studios I feel like should have gotten significantly more than what they did.
Right. I agree with you, especially for Tomb Raider. Even Tomb Raider alone, just that IP might be worth more than $300 million. I mean, those games are huge and they sell really well. The thing that I will say, I got two things to say. Is that number one, I'm glad that it was Embracer Group that bought them. and not some dubious foreign investor like Tencent. And the other thing is, I think you could have seen this coming a long time ago, because I don't think Square Enix has ever done right by these IP. Every single time a Tomb Raider game comes out, you see a Square Enix press memo like 3 months later, hey, this game undersold. Even though Tomb Raider has sold like 5 million copies, Square Enix is like, we're not happy with its performance. Same thing with Deus Ex. Thief didn't do well. Crystal Dynamics, they made the Avengers game, right?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. So, and obviously Square kind of let that to die. I just think that this price tag may have been more of Square Enix wiping their hands of the situation and going back to their roots, as opposed to them being like, Embracer Group being like, hey, we'll offer you this much. I think I wouldn't be surprised to find that Square Enix offered Embracer Group these IP, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point too. It's just so weird because I feel like these games are yeah, like these developers were like making games that were like generally like better received than most Square Enix games, right? Like, wasn't it like these Western
Yes.
developers who were kind of like buoying the company like during hard
Yeah.
times?
Absolutely. And like we talked about like 2 weeks ago, I think Square Enix management is just a complete mess. Like, there's something wrong with the upper management at this company, and that's absurdly clear when you look at like their development problems and the fact that the teams that they were pretty much hands off with performed a lot better than their home teams.
Mhm.
And I think it's probably a good move for them to like go down to a smaller size as far as like teams go, and focus on what made them good to begin with, because Square Enix has been completely off the rails in the last 10 years. So I think it's a good thing for all parties involved. I'm still not sure that Embracer Group isn't a giant money laundering
It feels like a
thing.
Ponzi scheme, right?
It does. Something's wrong with the fact that they can just buy all these studios.
Yeah, it's a little spooky just because like I remember when they first started and it was basically like it was like the old THQ collective, right? Like it was like every studio that was more or less surviving after the U-Draw fiasco of 2012.
Yes.
But man, it's like since then, like it just seems weird. Like it seems like comical. Like it feels like
Yes.
every news article I read about them acquiring something, it feels like an Onion article about them acquiring some studio, right? Like it's like no way. There's no they got the people who made SpongeBob SquarePants, Bikini Bottom Rehydrated, whatever, Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated. Like of course they did. Why wouldn't they? Like they're like a rich dad in a movie who's just like doesn't understand how to connect with his kids, so they just buy everything, hoping that one thing will like make their kid happy.
But they have like a lot of really good stuff, and they haven't put much out. You know, like they haven't put a ton of stuff out. And I think the only thing that comes to mind that was like huge that they put out was the Kingdoms of Amalur re-release with like a DLC,
Yes, the re-reckoning.
the re-reckoning.
By the
You're
way,
like,
when you were talking about Final Fantasy, that was absolute with like associating like a bad time with a game. That game was absolutely my game. Where like I
Kingdoms
made
of
my
Amalur?
character, I made my character look like my girlfriend at the time, and like I
Oof.
sunk like 20 hours into it, and then we broke up, and I was like, I can't look at you.
Ruined that game for me real quick.
Yeah, sure did.
I love Kingdoms of Amalur, and I never beat it because I just kept getting distracted by the side quests and whatnot. It was that kind of game, but I thought it was
Yeah.
beautiful. It was really good, and it deserved more love. Maybe not from the state of Maine, but from somebody. Oh no, it was Rhode Island.
It
Wasn't
was
it?
Rhode Island. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's funny too
Absolutely.
because it was Kurt Schilling who like went from being like personal hero, like throwing like in the World Series like the bloody sock on the mound, just like being like this sports like folk hero basically, and then coming out as like a political football, just be like political liability, just like saying all these things, getting fired from jobs for voicing his opinion on things that just didn't need to be voiced on air, and it just all of a sudden he became like a he tried like running for office in Massachusetts, I think, hoping that like being, Red Sox World Series winner, the guy who like helped break the curse, like hoping that would carry him, and boy, it did not.
Well,
Um,
I mean, Donald Trump became president that way, so
yeah, that's a good point.
so I
Um,
think it's not too bad of a strategy.
so you're saying there's a chance?
Yeah.
No, like this is, I think this is like generally new. Like I'd say Embracer acquiring this, like it's either a net neutral, right, where it's like, okay, nothing is fundamentally going to change, or it's going to drive the price down when whatever is happening at Embracer eventually collapses like a house of cards. Because like I guess I don't understand, like, where's all this money coming from?
It
Like
doesn't
how
make
are you
any sense.
acquiring this many developers without releasing like a proportional amount of product, right?
Right.
And so that makes it seem like there's got to be like venture capital behind this that like I'm not qualified enough to like really parse through and understand. But geez Louise, like it just makes no sense from the outside.
I'm trying to find like games that Embracer Group have released, and I don't really see
Like when was the
anything.
last time, because Volition is one of those, right? And so like I guess like oh my god, what's that open world game they make that's not GTA? Saints Row 4 is Embracer Group, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. 4 wasn't, no.
Or not
I mean,
4, but like
now it
5.
is.
Which
Yes,
one are we
5.
on? We're on 5.
Yeah, we're on 5.
Okay.
Which is crazy. I used to love Saints Row. I mean, I love Saints Row 3. I put a ton of time into Saints Row 3. I didn't like 4. 4 was just a little too much for me, and 5, I think I'm good on that.
Yeah,
I think I'm good on like the open world gang.
I kind of need a
Things now.
break from open world games, to be completely
Yeah.
honest. That's why like one of the games I didn't talk about my games. I don't really care about my games, to be honest. But I've been playing SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated. I'm like, I just want
Dude.
like one of my favorite recent gaming memories was like going through all the Spyro games, and I was like, okay, I just want like a nice fun platformer. I just want like colors and like boppy music in the background. Like I just kind of
That
want to like
sounds
change
wonderful.
my mental
Yeah.
space. And Jesus Christ, is SpongeBob like not that game? Like there's a lot I
Okay.
like about it, but like that game is just not well made.
Okay. But listen to me. I'm so glad you brought this up, because if you have some time tonight, whenever, if you're bored, look up the speedrunning. There's like a documentary about speedrunning Battle for Bikini Bottom. And that might be the wildest journey of speedrunning. I don't follow speedrunning. I think it's fun sometimes to look at the glitches and whatnot they use for speedrunning. Battle for Bikini Bottom has like a massive historic speedrunning like story to it. And now people can beat that game in like 13 seconds.
Wow, I should look that up. I would love to do that. I'd
Yeah.
love to just be done with it.
Just
Gotta get
sick of
get
it.
that platinum. Dude, there is one speedrunning documentary that came out either last year or the year before, but it's all about like Wii golf, like on the Wii Motion Sports collection. But it was people like figuring out, it's like, okay, so there's like 9 holes. So like you'd think that like the fastest way to speedrun it would be to get like 9 hole-in-ones. And it's like, no, actually that's not true, because the hole-in-one animation takes up more time than getting it done in 2
Oh my
strokes.
god.
So it's like people trying to figure out the best like approach shots and just trying to figure out how to shave seconds off. It was like really fascinating stuff.
The other
I will absolutely watch SpongeBob speedrunning. Hell yeah.
dude, it's just so interesting because people just find these things organically, and then like or they're like, all right, I'm gonna figure out a way to skip this entire section of this game, and I'm gonna try absolutely every button combination, everything possible to do that, and they end up figuring it out. The other really good speedrunning documentary is God of War, like the first God of War, because it was before like YouTube guides and stuff like that, and it's about this forum of these God of War speedrunners and like an old school internet forum. And this guy pops in, he's like, yeah, I beat this game in like an hour 30. And everyone's like, there's no way, that's absolutely impossible. But he did it without any help from that group whatsoever. He did it organically all by himself, found all these new glitches and whatnot by himself. And it like through this forum and like a crazy tailspin. It's a great documentary. It's internet drama like that I absolutely love.
You know when you run out of podcasts and you're like, damn it, what do I do now?
Yes.
Well, when I run out of podcasts, I go to YouTube. and then I immediately catch up on all my YouTube. I like my MTG
Yes.
Goldfish. I like to watch people play Magic because I refuse to spend money on that game. But when I like run out of my videos on YouTube, that's when I usually like, okay, let me go down a level. I'm gonna go into my sub basement right now, and then in my sub basement of content to watch is the speedrunning stuff.
Yeah.
Watched a lot of documentaries on like just like frame cutting on like the original Super Mario or like Super Mario World or something. And it's always so like fascinating. I'm just like, well, I'm never gonna do this. I don't care, but it's cool to see. It's cool to understand.
All right, George, you're a big Star Wars fan.
I am a big Star Wars fan.
Yeah. Did you see that Obi-Wan Kenobi got a rating of 9+?
And I did not. No.
Yeah. How do you feel about that?
Like you just have to be at least 9 years old to watch it.
Yeah. So like, for example, like The Mandalorian was 14.
Oh, I see. And
okay. Kenobi's like a lot lower. It's like essentially for like kids.
I don't know if that means it's necessarily for kids. I mean, because
well,
like,
no, but like the rating.
Yeah, sure. But like the original Star Wars, like I don't need Star Wars to do like more mature storytelling. Like I don't think that's the issue. I think they could do it because this is like fitting firmly within the movies, right? Like this is like positioned between episodes 3 and 4, and like those are PG-13. So like I guess in like that regard, it's just a little like okay, like we'll see. But like I don't know, the original was PG. Like that's not why I love Star Wars. Like I just want to see like I'm hoping for like big revelations. Like I want to see them sort of like reconcile the Anakin of the Clone Wars more into the canon of the live action stuff, right?
Yeah, I'm really excited Hayden Christensen's coming back.
Yeah, me too. I really hope I think it's gonna be really good for him. Like if not good for his career, then at least like therapeutic for him personally, because he was just so hated as Anakin. Right?
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of that has to do with George Lucas. Like it has to, right?
Oh, I've seen the directing. The direction he gives him, like in behind the scenes stuff, is like awful. Like it's just like, oh man, so it was your idea to make that scene trash. Okay.
Yeah, I'm really excited for Obi-Wan Kenobi. Me and Caitlin are going to Disney World the week before it comes out, so that's gonna be exciting. Is the Star Wars? I mean, you were in California for a while. Did you ever go to Galaxy's Edge at Disneyland?
I was supposed to go in February of 2020, and then stuff happened. I was gonna go down. My brother always flies my dad out to like dog sit his dog for like 2 weeks while like my brother goes on vacation. And he does that not because he needs to hire a dog sitter, but because like my dad doesn't really take vacations. And like if he didn't do this, my dad would like never leave the state of Maine. So
gotcha.
He always did that as like an excuse. And I was planning on like flying down, and I was gonna like surprise him, and I was gonna take him to Galaxy's Edge because we both love Star Wars so much. And then the goddamn pandemic happened, and I don't know when I'm gonna do that. I don't know when my dad and I are ever gonna be in California at the same time ever again. It makes me sad.
Have you thought about doing Disney World instead?
Is it the same thing down there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, I guess I could. I really wanted to do it in California, though, because I got like 2 nieces and nephews out there. So I've got like a 6-year-old niece who's like obsessed with Star Wars, like absolutely, like dresses like Rey. And then I've got like a younger 3-year-old nephew who, I mean, I don't know if he does this because of Darth Vader, but dresses in black. So like that's got to count for something, right?
Future goth is what you're saying.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, just like his uncle. It's gonna be perfect.
Yeah, me and Caitlin went down last year. We went to the park on May the 4th, so that was a pretty crazy day.
What's your budget like for the next time you go? Like, because I know you went a little ham on lightsabers last time, and I'm not asking for a number. I'm sorry, I don't mean to like put you on the spot and talk about private financial stuff. But
I'm
like,
not private in the middle.
You looking to grab another lightsaber? You looking to grab another Jedi robe? Like, what are we feeling this time? Are there any objectives?
I don't think so, man. I might buy a lightsaber, but I feel like the last time we went so ham that I got everything that I really wanted, and like, because I went down with like quite a bit of money then, and I was feeling pretty reckless. And I just was like, all right, well, we want this, let's get it. We're here now. And we went crazy with like the souvenirs. It's funny because we had to get another suitcase. We had gotten that far. Our souvenirs needed their own suitcase. So we decided, okay, well, we're not going to buy the ones at Disney World because they're like way too expensive. So let's go to the local Walmart and get a suitcase there. But it was our last day in Disney World and we were dressed as Jedi. Right? Because we were going to get this suitcase before we go to the park and then bring it back and drop it off and just head off to the park. So we were already in like full costumes. We wanted our cool Star Wars outfits with our cool Star Wars pictures.
Yeah.
So we went to this Walmart, and I guess I assumed that Disney's there's a cat behind me. I guess I assumed that Disney's like effect would create like a lot of money around Disney World. That is not the case whatsoever.
Orlando's kind of a stinker.
Well, yeah, and Disney's not even like it's near Orlando, but it's not actually in Orlando.
Yeah.
For people who haven't been there, the areas surrounding Disney World are not a good place to be. Apparently, I looked this up afterwards because we got there and we're like, "What is happening?" We saw this truck almost hit these ladies, and they got out and tried to fight him and drag him out. Caitlin got yelled at by an older woman for putting her cigarette, or not, but the lady put her cigarette on the windowsill of Walmart, and Caitlin was like just inquiring about it to me, and she heard her in the background and freaked out and like started yelling at her, and I was like, "Oh dear, this is
That's
not
like that's all of Central Florida, by the way.
Yeah,
all like everything between like St. Petersburg, Tampa, and Miami. That's exactly what that is.
Yeah,
that's
so
why Florida gets made fun of by so many people.
And we were in our Jedi robes with the full get up on. And
did you pretend you worked there? Like, was that your move to like act like, oh yeah, like we're on break from Disney, like we?
Oh no, we should have though. That would have been funny. No, we just like awkwardly kept our heads down and like bought this suitcase and got out of there and called an Uber to take us back to our hotel.
Seth, I'm so glad you brought up Star Wars. Do you have like you got 10 minutes, maybe less, just to run through something really fast?
I have 12 hours.
Holy crap! Sorry, Austin. All right, so IGN has an article called "Every Star Wars Game in Development," written by Jordan Serrani, and it was just updated last week. So I want to run through them really quickly.
Hit me.
Star Wars Hunters. This is the free-to-play game coming to Switch. Remember, like that was announced during a Nintendo Direct.
Oh yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
How little do you care about that? I mean, it's free-to-play, and you currently own a Switch, right?
On a scale of 1 to 10.
Yeah.
1.
Yeah, that's probably where I'm at too. Also, Lego Star Wars already came out, so like that was the first game.
Yeah, which is great, by the way.
I've played like all the individual ones where I'm like, I just don't know if I care.
No, I mean, yeah, if you've already played them, then it's probably
not. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order 2.
On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm at like a solid 7.5 on that one.
All right, I'm at like a 5 or a 6 on that one.
I'm interested to know what they're gonna do. So, like, have you thought about like how they're gonna tie everything back together? Because they have so many Jedi now that they can't kill off, like Ezra, Ahsoka, Cal Kestis, and now Cal's like trying to go get a bunch of like children. Well, I don't want to spoil it. I guess I just did spoil it. Whatever. You've had plenty of time. Get over it. And how they're going to tie that back together, because... Or maybe Disney doesn't care about the story at all. Maybe they're just like, whatever. We're just doing whatever we want. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, all you really have to do is have them, like, escape but intersect, right? Like, I mean, like, that's, like, all you really need to do. Like, it doesn't need to tie into, like, the greater mythology of whatever, but it's just like, okay, we're going to go train where it's safe, you know, and it's just like, okay, there's just like a lost colony of Jedi somewhere, which feels like a very Star Wars thing to have happen. Right?
Yeah, true. I really like the first Fallen Order. I hope the second one is less Metroidvania and more linear. I think that was the biggest holding.
I 100% agree.
Yeah.
Or if it is Metroidvania, I hope it's better Metroidvania.
Yeah, 100%.
Take either or. Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic remake.
That is a solid 9 for me, but I'm also hesitant because it seems not right. Something's off about this.
I'm going to give it a 10. I'm going to give it a 10, not because I like really want to play it, but because I'm so curious to see what it is.
Yeah, there's something feels weird about this announcement, and I'm not quite sure what it is, but like my spidey sense is tingling.
Oh, I don't know. Could it be the fact that a port studio that's only ever made games available on PC come to Mac for the first time ever, or make those PC versions barely functional on consoles? Is it because they announced like a big AAA game? Because
Yeah,
that's why I don't believe them.
yeah. There's some. Yeah, it's that, and also like, why are they remaking Knights of the Republic? You know, like that's another question I have. I
That I'm
mean,
okay with, because that game has like an incredible story, but playing it like sucks ass. Like
yes,
there's like nothing worse than playing that game.
dude. It's so funny you bring this up because actually just yesterday I tried to play it, via Steam, and it doesn't have controller support, and I'm like, I'm not doing this, and I just turned it off immediately.
How, dude? It came to Xbox. Like, how does it
Yes,
not
I
have?
know. I know it did, but like naturally, I mean, I might have to download like an extra mod or something, maybe. But naturally, it does not have controller support on Steam.
I
You
mean,
have to be kidding me.
you might be able to grab it on Xbox and play it on your phone, right? Like, don't you have like one
Yeah,
of the bone controllers or whatever?
yeah, yeah. It might even be on Game Pass. I gotta check.
Next game, Respawn Star Wars first person shooter. I'll be completely honest. When they announced that Respawn is making a Star Wars game, I assumed it was a first person shooter.
Well, yes, I would assume so as well. That could be really cool. But my solid 5. I gotta wait and see something.
I'm gonna leave it at a 5. I've been replaying a lot of Republic Commando lately, trying to chip away at that platinum. Like that game, I really like it. I don't think it's like particularly good. I don't think it's aged very well. Like I think a lot, like again, like Knights of the Republic, like so much about it is aged well, except playing it. You know,
Hmm.
like that's unfortunately it's just not how I want my shooter games to feel. I will say that the development is being led by Peter Hirschman, according to this article. And I recently played his Medal of Honor Above and Beyond, the one that came to like Oculus.
Hmm.
And I have not played like the Vive version. I've not played like the in-depth PC version. I've only played the Oculus version. That game sucks. Like that game is absolutely awful on Oculus. I wish I had like a window where I could like get my money back, because I spent $40 on that. I'm like, I should have gotten the Lady Gaga Beat Saber stuff. Like this is just such a horrendous waste of resources on this freaking game.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, never played it.
Next game, Ubisoft's open world Star Wars. I don't know. I loved
Yeah.
Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I loved Assassin's Creed Origins. I played 3 hours of Ragnarok and I was like, I can't do this. Like or Asgard, whatever that the Viking one was called. I just can't do it anymore. I
Yeah,
need a break.
I feel like Ubisoft has one formula now, right? Like they do one type of game, which is the open world game, and it worked for them
Collecting.
for
Yeah.
yeah, it worked for them for a while. You go to the towers, you know, you expand the map, but now it's just like it seems like that's all they've done, and I feel like they've lost the soul in those games. Like I was watching my best friend play Far Cry 5 the other day, and I was like, I feel like I've played this game. I feel like I've already played this game.
Yeah. And like I love the Far Cry games. Like I've got the platinum in 3, 4, 5, New Dawn, 5. Did I already say 5?
Yeah.
I've gotten the platinum in literally every freaking Far Cry game I can. It's like going back to PlayStation 3, except for 2. 2 was like impossible to get. But like I love that game series, and I was so excited for AC4. I had friends who worked on like the advertising campaign for it, so I got to go to like the launch party of that game. I was so excited, so hyped. I like got a copy of that game for free for PlayStation 4. It was awesome. And then I started it, and like literally the first thing I had to do in that game was like hunt down 2 iguanas so I could make like a bigger bomb purse or whatever. And I'm like, son of, like I just did this. I just did this. And then like it blends together like what games make you do what things, because it's the same thing. Like you're always doing the same thing in any other games, in Assassin's Creed and Far Cry and even Ghost Recon to an extent. It's just like, god damn, I wish your games had more personality. It's just frustrating.
Right, that's exactly what I was saying. Like personality, they've lost any sort of personality, and that's what I'm worried about the Star Wars game. Now, it doesn't take a lot to please me, George. It does not take a lot to
Especially,
please me.
yeah,
Yeah,
Star Wars
especially with
license does
Star
a lot
Wars.
of heavy lifting. Yeah.
Yeah, if you give me like a Jedi with a lightsaber and I'm rolling around, I don't know, Coruscant, slicing fools up, I'm good, dude.
That's
That's
a
all
good
you need to
point.
give me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. Next game, Star Wars Eclipse.
Oh, this game's never coming out.
It's absolutely not coming out. All we're gonna have is that trailer, and we're gonna be recording this 5 years from now, being like, "Oh man, you remember when that game was announced and people actually thought it was a real thing?"
Yeah, that trailer was shown off, and first off, never show me just a pre-rendered trailer ever. I hate that. And second, they immediately started announcing they were having issues after it. They were having trouble like hiring people and whatnot. So I'm like, okay, so you haven't even started development. That's great.
I'm sure there's like a notebook somewhere, right? Like,
yeah, like
someone has general ideas,
an outline of the plot.
Which sucks because I feel like this game is like how you would get people to care about the High Republic era. I think the comic is fine. I
was
read the
just
first book.
I was just about to ask you if you've read the comic because I really want to dive in, but I'm like, the biggest thing holding me back from the High Republic is I'm like, well, without the Sith, the Jedi are boring. Because like the Jedi or the Sith are the only adversaries to the Jedi that are in any way interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in the comic, it just comes down to a lot of like, in like Marvel comics where it's like, Captain America will save someone, and people are like, "What gives you the right to do?" Like, it's basically just like a lot of that. Right?
That sounds terrible. Not
like
fun.
everyone's kind of treating the Jedi like Iron Man. At least in like, I mean, I read the first like 4 or 5 issues of High Republic, and I just thought it was kind of boring, so I left. But yeah, it was really like the people holding signs outside of Iron Man's house saying like "Warmonger," just crap like that.
The writers throwing a fit because Luke Skywalker showed up in The Mandalorian, like left a bad taste in my mouth too, because they said, like, at least one of them said like, oh, this takes away attention from my book, and it's like, well, did you have any attention to begin with?
That's why he's pissed, because like the four people were like, wait, what?
Yeah, I don't know.
All right, 2 more games. Next up, Respawn and Bit Reactor's Star Wars strategy game. So this is a game led by someone from Firaxis and former XCOM devs.
I could get down with a strategy Star Wars game. That could be cool.
Yeah, I could too. Especially, I've been playing a little bit more of like Project Triangle.
Oh, how is that?
I like it a lot, and it does the thing that you'd like, where like the demo actually feeds into the main game. And the demo, I'm still playing the demo. The demo is like 8 hours, 10 hours. Like, it's huge. It's a little stilted in times. Like, someone like watched one movie and is just like, all right, this is how they sound, and it's just like, okay, a lot of questionable choices language wise. But man, if that game were a Star Wars game, I'd probably be a lot further in it. I tell you what.
There's that Star Wars game on mobile that I always wanted to get into because they're having like a Revan event and whatnot. And I was like, I just can't do it anymore. The gotcha stuff on the phone. I just can't do it, man.
Well, it looks like that Marvel game too, which is also like a gotcha. Like, I would love to play that one. I would absolutely love to play it, but I'm like, I'm not gonna sit there and like try to assemble a team of, oh, I've got Emperor Palpatine and Chewbacca and Wicket, and it's just like, oh, well, it's not a gold Wicket, so I lost this fight. Like,
yeah,
the hell out of here. Like, I'm not here for that. Finally, but like, okay, sorry, not finally. Star Wars strategy games completely underrated. I think like that might be the most underutilized genre for Star Wars because it's like the only place you can get the scale, right? Like having Star Destroyer, like capital ships and like a big ass dogfight, or like having Imperial walkers, chicken walkers, and troops. Like, you just don't get that in many other games. Like, even Battlefront's capped, right?
Well, even in like the movies, except for episodes 2 and in some ways episode 3, you never saw like large scale battles. They always felt very small. Like, you think about like the Battle of Endor and whatnot, and it's just like,
because it was the Empire against the Rebels, right? Like, I mean, the Rebels aren't supposed to be super tough. They're not supposed to contend with the Emperor.
Well, no, but even like it just, the battles always felt so small scale. Whereas like in the Clone Wars, you had thousands going on thousands. Thousands versus thousands, and we never really got that perspective. And I think a strategy game is probably like the perfect time for that.
Yeah, sorry, I was agreeing with you 100% because like the Rebels were so like thrown together, whatever. They were nothing compared to the Confederacy of Independent Systems.
Confederacy of Independent Systems.
It's about planets' rights.
You're right.
And final game is the Amy Hennig and Skydance new media Star Wars game, which I know literally nothing about. I'm curious to see this because I feel like Amy Hennig has been so start and stop for the past 10 years, where it's just like she hasn't really made a game since Uncharted 3, right?
I feel really bad for Amy Hennig, but she definitely sold her soul to make Uncharted 3, and now she's cursed and can't make a game in it ever again.
Yeah, it's like her and Jade Raymond, right? We've
Yeah.
talked about this before on the
Yeah.
podcast. I'm just remembering this now, but like it really is just like, oh crap! Like I understand you guys are super talented, but also like I haven't seen anything from you in so long that like I'm not saying you're not talented. I'm just saying there isn't like a recent body of work to reiterate how talented you are. And like
Yeah,
I don't want to be like, what have you done for me lately? But what have you done lately?
Amy Hennig went to the crossroads, made a deal with the devil that said, "Hey, I want to make one of the greatest games of all time," and she got it. And then she was never able to make a game again. That was the
I want to. I want to make a game better than anything this Neil guy can do. No offense. I just don't care about The Last of Us at all.
Me either.
But like Uncharted 3, fantastic. My favorite in the series.
Yep.
And god damn, I need more from Amy.
Yep. If she actually pulls it together and makes a good Star Wars game, I'll be elated. Because here's the thing I was just thinking about today, I think. The Star Wars games have gotten such a shaft in the last decade, man. Like, man, I just feel like that no one has captured the potential of Star Wars games. And it's to the fault of EA, to be fair. 100% the fault of EA. They completely screwed that opportunity up. Fallen Order was the only thing in my mind of note. Like, Battlefront 2 apparently is good now, but it's too little too late, you know?
Battlefront 2 is like borderline perfect now. I will say that, but I agree. It is too late. It was too late when it happened. I absolutely love that game. I think that's like probably like one of the best multiplayer shooters ever made.
Wow, that's a high praise.
Yeah, that one's awesome. And I'm saying that strictly as like a PvE shooter. Like I think the PvE is great. The PvP, I'm never convinced that the people I'm playing with aren't cheating somehow. Like I just don't understand it. Like either this is the only game you play or there's like auto assist happening. Because like I'm not terrible at this game, but like I don't understand how you snipe me from across the map when like you shouldn't have even been able to see me.
How much is Battlefront 2 on Steam?
Usually like $10.
Really? Because if it's that cheap, I'll buy it. Star Wars Battlefront, it's $7. I'm buying it. $7. Sorry, continue.
All right. The PvE stuff, they added co-op where it's like basically if you and 3 other people in like a certain scenario where it's like, okay, we're gonna play as clones going against the CIS. We're gonna play as rebels going against the Empire. We're gonna go as First Order against the what were they? What were the good guys in the new trilogy?
It was the Republic. It was the New Republic.
Yeah, but they weren't the Resistance. Sorry, that's what I was trying to remember.
Oh yeah, that was weird because like they were technically the New Republic, but they were calling themselves the Resistance.
Yeah, still makes no goddamn sense at all to me. We need to get back on that Star Wars podcast, by the way. That'd be super fun.
I would 100% agree. I have so much to talk about with Star Wars.
But that's all that's in development from Star Wars. So like I'd say I don't think we gave grades. Star Wars Eclipse is never coming out, so we don't need to grade it. Respawn and Bit Reactor Star Wars strategy game, unless it also comes to Mac. I personally just don't care. I'm never gonna buy a PC.
Why, George?
Stop
this
already
nonsense.
I need to do all my art stuff on my Mac, and I like it. The Amy Hennig Skydance, I give that one like a 7, but also like we'll see because like I've heard about an Amy Hennig Star Wars game for a long time, so we'll see if this one happens.
Is there a date on the Fallen Order 2? Is it 23?
Oh, let me double check. It was confirmed as officially in development. EA and Lucasfilm games confirmed in early 2022. No date.
Oh God, this is my biggest problem with video games right now: is long form storytelling. When who knows when the next entry of your story is coming out? It's like waiting for a George R.R. Martin book in perpetuity.
Yeah, it's really frustrating. It sucks, right? Because like games take a long time to make, and so like I totally get why like the marketing arm of your company is like trying to justify its existence, being like coming soon, Battlefront 3. Like I get why like you want to justify like having an entire marketing staff, but it's also like, dude, you can't tell me about a game 2 years from now. Like you just can't. Like that sucks to hear. So you either need to like be more realistic about what you can accomplish in your game and like make it sooner and then just like add to it over time. Like make it like a platform, I guess. Is
Yeah,
like
it
the
drives me
ultimate.
crazy because God of War did this too. God of War came out in what, 2018?
Yeah.
And then
Maybe 17.
they're claiming it's coming out this year, which is very doubtful. But God of War leaves off on a cliffhanger, and Fallen Order leaves off on a cliffhanger. And I'm like, well, I want to know what happens next.
Well, that's a weird thing, right? Because like when movies do that, they generally film those sequels back to back, so you're not waiting
Yes.
more than a year, right? Like when was the last time you had to wait more than a year for a sequel? Like Dune is going to be the next one,
Yes. I
and
gotta
I guess
finish Dune.
Batman, but like normally they do this stuff back to back to back, so you don't have to wait. You know, the amount of time it would take your infant child to become a kindergartner to see what happens next, because that's too much, man. Life is too short. I can't spend much more time waiting for what happens next.
But Fallen Order had a lot of charm, man. It really did. And Fallen Order was really the first Star Wars game I've played in years where I felt like a Jedi. And the last one was like The Force Unleashed. But The Force Unleashed, I don't know if you've played it lately, not aged the greatest.
I haven't played it lately. I really kind of want to grab the Switch version though, just because that one seems like a good dumb fun. And like the Switch version is the Wii version, which was the PSP version. I actually really love the PSP
Whoa.
version of.
So they took the PSP version, put it on Wii, and put it on Switch?
Oh, like it was the PS2 version was like the lead development, and then they brought the PS2 version. They dumbed it down to PSP, and then they dumbed it the same for Wii. But like I just remember seeing like the trailer for the Switch version, and it was like the same exact cutscenes that I remember from the original game, because it's like in the original, or sorry, from the PSP version. Because like in the original game, like you don't fight in like the Jedi archives, but you do in the PSP version.
I see. That makes sense. All right.
And that game's great on PSP. The fact that you can play it on PSP is a miracle. But you know,
PSP
lower your
awesome.
standards to a PSP.
We need to have a PSP recap episode someday because I love the PSP.
I thought I loved the Vita the most, and then I spent more time on my PSP, and the PSP is far superior.
Yeah. All right. Well, before we wrap up this week.
Yeah, now that we've killed Elijah with that last sentence.
Yeah, he's just crying. I'm probably gonna get down to George. He's gonna punch me in the face. What'd you say?
Keep my favorite console's name out of your mouth.
Keep my Vita's name out your mouth. I want to start a new segment this week called Frameskip's Pick of the Week, where we each pick a game, alternating. Like, I'm not gonna put you on the spot and make you pick a game. I'll pick the first game. You can pick the game next week, whatever.
Pick of the week.
Yeah, I like that. My pick this week is going to be Xenoblade Chronicles 2. It's a gorgeous game with a great story that you do not have to play the first one for, and it's got maybe the best art that I've ever seen in any game ever. Whoever developed that game, it was like the lead artist for those games, did not get paid enough. Whatever it was, double it. And it's got a great soundtrack. Voice acting sucks. Everything else, amazing.
What's Torna? Tornia?
Torna was a country in Xenoblade 2 that by the time you start Xenoblade 2, Torna is like gone. So that the Torna Chronicles, the prequel expansion, takes place during like the fall of Torna. I never beat it, but
okay,
it's presumably the fall of Torna.
Cool. And what type of game is it? Go into more details.
It's an RPG, but it's not. It doesn't fall in between either an action RPG or a turn-based RPG because it's more of an active time battle. But it's maybe if you played straight through, you're probably gonna be able to beat it in 50 hours. It's a long game. It's a big game, but it's all about. Whereas the first Xenoblade was all about the overarching story, Xenoblade 2 is more of a character development based story, and it's got some like really fun gacha elements in it, but you don't have to pay any money for them, which is like amazing. It's like the old Pokemon formula where you get these spheres, open them up, and it might have a legendary blade in it. And there's like 300 legendary blades, and blades are like your companion spirit things that you use to fight with. Really great cast of characters, a lot of depth to the combat. I cannot recommend Xenoblade enough. Great soundtrack.
Where does it rank on your list of favorite games the last 10 years?
Top 5.
Top 5. All right.
Yeah, top
Damn,
5
that's
easily. I don't have like an
what else,
organized
what
list
else
in my
do you
head.
need?
Yeah.
What else do you need, listeners? Come on.
Come on, get in there. No, dude, the game that does not get enough love. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is amazing. I can't wait for the third one. So, really excited.
Yeah, that one got bumped up. You excited?
Yeah, I'm excited to play it. I'm not excited that it got bumped up though, because I just feel like I'm so busy that if it came out right now, I probably wouldn't get to it for weeks. So hopefully, I'm less busy when it comes out.
That's fair.
Anyway, George, any closing thoughts or comments?
Let Peter Parker be happy.
Let Peter Parker be happy. God damn it.
Let him grow old. Let him stop worrying about how he's going to pay for rent. I'm not saying that's not like a relatable situation for anyone. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like Peter Parker can't spend 40 years having bad luck. Like it's just it's too much. Like I'm getting a little sick of it.
I can't take it anymore. Can't take it.
Yeah, I'm about to go read Amazing Spider-Man #1, the new volume that started, and I can't wait to just text Seth how angry I am and how angry he should be.
I just don't. I feel so apathetic towards it now. Apathetic is when you don't care,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They've taken something that I've loved and beat me to death with it.
Yeah,
But
sure have. It's funny because I actually really like Brand New Day, but I agree that like
that physically hurt me.
well, no, but it's just you remember when it's like, should we bail out the banks in like 2008, or should we let them fail and break it and like build them back up to be better?
Mm-hmm.
It kind of feels like it was a bailout, you know, like the equivalent of like, well, we can't just like let this thing fail. It's an institution. It's been around forever. And it's like, well, actually, it might be better if you just like let it fail. Like if you just like completely break it down, and then you can like build it up better. But I don't know. I don't want to get too political here at the hour 21.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, on that note, if you liked this, remember to please give us a like and a subscription if you can. Leave us a review. All those things help us out greatly. We really appreciate it. George, thank you so much for sitting here with me. It's been a fun time.
Yeah, it has.
I love you so much. Your hair's
I love
beautiful.
you too, man. Yeah, I'm not going to see you this week, but I'll do my best. I'll endeavor to see you at some point this summer because I am starting to go a little stir crazy being up in Maine.
What? You're telling me you don't have a lot to do up there?
I like a lot of yard work, yeah.
A lot of yard work.
I'm just saying I don't really see a lot of people. Like I see like my dad, my sister, her kid, her husband, and then like one friend. So I can stand to see some more people, I guess is what I'm saying.
You are free to my hangout time whenever you would like it.
All right, very cool. And I really want to go to Austin's wedding, but you couldn't pay me enough money to get on a plane right now. So
someone couldn't pay you, if I had an unlimited amount of money.
I mean, at first, obviously the answer is yes, but like now to stick to my principles, I have to say no. So like, no, I don't care. You take your unlimited money and you shove it up your unlimited ass, Seth.
Well, fine. I'm taking my $16 billion and going home.
That's unlimited to you? Get out of here. Buy half of Twitter for that.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Smooch.